Hello and welcome tonight.
Is by 15%, the first adjustment in 32 years.
On Sports News tonight, Brazil's legend and former Real Madrid left-back Marcelo announces his retirement from professional football at 36 after a trophy.
Sovereignty. He stated this when he represented President Bola Tinubu at the commemorative symposium to mark the 60th birthday of the former governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Kayode Fayemi, in Abuja. He urges African leaders to empower the youth to innovate in tech hubs across the continent, building unicorns without the permission of any gatekeepers. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
This is a commemorative symposium celebrating the 60th birthday of the former governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, and the unveiling of a Pan-African transformative initiative known as the Amandla Institute for Policy and Leadership Advancement. Dignitaries across various divides were in attendance, including Vice President Kashim Shettima, former Head of State General Yakubu Gowon, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former President of the Senate Dr. Bukola Saraki, former and 7 ministers, former and 7 governors, faith leaders, and royal fathers. The event aims to provide valuable insights into Nigeria's leadership and policy gateways.
As Africans, we deserve the very best. Not just what we believe our circumstances or our context dictate. He is always looking ahead to what is possible, not fixated on what is not achievable in the short term. Envisioning, strategic thinking, leveraging relationships and partnerships to accomplish goals have always been JKF's strengths.
On behalf of myself, I say thank you. You are a benefactor. You are standing by me, and you are being a good leader, a good mentor, a good brother, and a good friend.
Today, we are living in surreal times where the rule of law is AWOL, where leadership is questioned, and where trust is broken and our social fabric is tearing. And that they have a Nigerian at the helm of affairs who is trying to fill these gaps and address leadership is just amazing, and it is where Nigeria should be, leadership in Africa and the world.
Former President of South Africa, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, delivered the keynote address virtually and elevates the conversation to include Africa's leadership role on the global stage.
We will endeavor for Africa to take its rightful place in the political, security, economic and social systems of global governance, towards the realization of its renaissance and establishing Africa as a leading continent. And thus we reiterate our commitment to Africa's active role in the globalization process and international forums, including in the financial and economic institutions.
His position is buttressed by Nigeria's former head of state.
Pan-Africanism should evolve to embrace model changes by incorporating technology and innovation to solve our problems.
Vice President Kashim Shettima represented President Bola Tinubu at the event and makes a clarion call for African leaders.
It's time for Africa to stop debating ideas and start deploying them. The Amandla Institute must become a command center for the continent, turning thinkers into doers, policies into progress, and Pan-African ideals into lived realities.
In his thoughts, the celebrant stresses the imperative of effective leadership and policies.
We cannot see the squalor and the poverty and the inequality around us, even if we're privileged and can still eat 3 square meals a day, and forget what is happening to the larger majority of our people. And I think that is really what Amandla Institute speaks to.
As Nigeria and Africa stand at the crossroads of history, the message from this symposium is unequivocal. There is a need to bridge its leadership inadequacies in order to address its global challenges. The Amandla Institute is calling for transformative leadership. Benny Ark for Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, panelists at the commemorative symposium to mark the 60th birthday of Mr. Kayode Fayemi bared their minds on the need for a renewal of Pan-African ideals in view of the changing times. The panelists, who are mostly academics, identified the challenges and opportunities for the African continent.
There is a question of leadership, the lack of leadership in Africa today. I think this is our own main crisis. We are victim of a new scramble for Africa on the one hand, but at the same time, we have no leadership who is able to catalyze the will, the political will of the African people.
I think that here on the African continent, we grossly underestimate the importance of what being African means to Africans outside the continent, particularly in South America. Those of us who've had the privilege of living on the continent and in different parts of the diaspora can teach ourselves to recognize more clearly than people who stay in one place. It's the wood for the trees legacy.
This is a time of great challenges, great, very profound challenges. You all know it. But as I was discussing with Dr. Fayemi and others last night, it's also a time of great opportunities, what we can accomplish. Pan-Africanism, the reality of Pan-Africanism for me is global Africa. I believe I was born a global African, and I've only continued to become a global African with time.
We need to heal from what we have done to ourselves and what others have done to us, so that we can, in self-belief and in self-confidence, through an understanding of our history, through mastery of economics, of science, and of technology, we need to create the Africa that we desire.
And now to the upper chamber at the National Assembly, and the Senate has ordered an investigation into allegations made by Niger Republic's military leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, accusing the Nigerian government of colluding with France to destabilize Niger's internal security. This order followed a motion brought to the Senate by the chairman of the Senate Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Senator Shehu Buba. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezuke, reports.
It is the last plenary for the week, and the Deputy President of the Senate is presiding. A motion on allegations against Nigeria by the military leader of Niger Republic is brought forward.
The Senate notes with deep concern the serious and unfounded allegations made by the head of state of Niger Republic, Brigadier General Abdurrahman Chiani, accusing Nigeria of colluding with France to destabilize Niger through a new militia group called Lakurawa, allegedly operating in Nigeria's northwest region. He claimed that foreign military bases in Nigeria are being used to target Niger's oil pipelines and create security threats.
These allegations are highly sensitive, and according to the lawmakers, it requires thorough investigation.
Let us just agree that his committee be made to go and carry out whatever investigation that needs to be carried out, and the committee will present a report to us in an executive session.
The motion is now referred to the Committee on Intelligence and National Security, jointly with the Committee on Foreign Affairs, to report back within 4 weeks.
In another motion, the lawmakers debate the recent oil spill and fire outbreak in Bukuma, River State.
Recalls that incidents of oil spills and fire outbreaks in the Niger Delta region are recurrent and often result from lapses in safety protocols, sabotage, or inadequate enforcement of environmental laws.
This OML 18
where this spill has occurred, the operator should be given heavy fine.
I think we need to institute pollution tax in that area. And whatever revenue is generated from that tax should be used to address this type of problems.
We should look at the behaviors of international oil companies, how they are doing it, and we'll have to bring them to book.
The resolutions are subsequently adopted.
Oil spill detection and response agency knows that to immediately investigate the cause of the fire outbreak and oil spill from manifold well 8 and submit a detailed report to the Senate within 4 weeks.
Meanwhile, the Senate has confirmed Captain Chris Najomo as the substantive Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority after the consideration of a report by the Senate Committee on Aviation. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Still at the National Assembly, and this time the House of Representatives is asking the federal government to immediately halt all divestment processes by international oil companies until their historical, environmental and social liabilities are addressed. The House, through a motion of urgent national importance by the Minority Leader, Kingsley Chinda, expressed concern that these oil companies damage their environment. The lawmakers also want the federal government to ensure that no divestment proceeds without transparent consultations with Niger Delta communities and state governments. And meanwhile, the House says it has received 31 requests for the creation of new states. Talking education now, the federal government is reiterating its commitment to developing the sector through policies that will promote strategic growth and development. Addressing participants at the 2025 Extraordinary National Council on Education meeting in Abuja, the Minister of Education, Olatunji Alausa, says the federal government is addressing the challenges in the sector in line with global standards. However, the minister appeals to state governments to key into the federal government's plan to revamp education.
Thank you very much for beautiful review.
Heads of agencies in the education sector and commissioners for education from the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory are gathered for the 2025 Extraordinary National Council on Education meeting. The session begins with the Minister of State for Education highlighting the focus of the meeting.
The focus of this Extraordinary National Council on Education meeting is to deliberate on emerging issues and come up with policies that will enhance a transformative period for Nigeria's education sector.
Reiterating the importance of education, the Deputy Governor of Kano State informs the gathering of the model being adopted by the state to address challenges in the sector.
Passionate and committed to the rescue of the education sector from the total collapse on Saturday, 8th of June 2024. The Kano State government declared a state of emergency on education to address the critical challenges facing the sector with a clarion call to all to unite and prioritize the revitalization of education with overall development of the society.
Stimulating knowledge through technical and innovative education forms part of the discussion at this meeting.
We are obligated to ensure that the upcoming generation receive the best possible education that they can. As we navigate a rapidly evolving society, it is crucial to ensure that Nigeria's education system meets the diverse needs of our children and prepares them for the future challenges. Now, some of the issues that informed the convening of this Extraordinary National Council of Education meeting will focus on 4 key areas. Introduction of the 12-year basic education in Nigeria education system.
The meeting moves to a technical session to deliberate on the proposals for a new national policy on education.
In part 2, after the break, the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria opposes plans by the federal government to toll selected federal roads in the country. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Vice President Kashim Shettima urges African leaders to reduce reliance on foreign models and embrace homegrown solutions. Senate launches investigation into allegations made by Niger's military leader against Nigeria. House of Representatives calls on the federal government to hold international oil companies' divestments due to environmental liabilities. And in international news, U.S. President. The Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN, with support from the United Nations Development Programme, has launched a solar-powered garment making center to provide SMEs with affordable access to modern equipment and reliable, sustainable energy. This initiative is designed to empower garment manufacturers by lowering operational costs and ensuring uninterrupted power supply through solar energy, enhancing productivity and business growth. Nigeria is home to nearly 40 million micro, small and medium enterprises that play a crucial role in the country's economy. However, erratic electricity supply has been a major challenge for SMEs, particularly in sectors reliant on machinery like garment production.
The cost of doing business is very expensive for small businesses. So what we're doing today is we're reducing that cost. Right now, small businesses can come in here, book a machine to work for free. They don't bother about power. They don't bother about buying the machine. They don't bother about maintaining the machine. They can just come here and work. As soon as they work, they produce the product. They can warehouse next door, and they can distribute the product anywhere across 36 states at the FCT at a reduced price because we've negotiated an MOU with NIPOS. We've negotiated an MOU with God is Good Logistics. So our small businesses can distribute. With God is Good Logistics is about 20% off. With NIPOS is about 15% off. So this is more money coming to our small businesses for them to increase their productivity, for them to do bigger businesses, for them to actually expand the work that they're doing. And I assure you that more jobs will be created. Imagine this in all the 360 senatorial districts or 109 senatorial districts. Imagine the effect that would be in Nigeria, driving the cost of unemployment, driving low unemployment, driving low underemployment that has hindered the capacity of many to do work and any decent living in Nigeria today.
To Labour Martyrs, the Trade Union Congress is asking the federal government to hold further increase in electricity tariff, tolls on selected highways, as well as the planned telecom tariff hike, or risk mass action by the union. President of the TUC, Mr. Festus Osifo, made the call at a news conference shortly after a meeting of the National Administrative Council of the Trade Union Congress in Abuja. The union also urges the government to urgently address the challenges associated with the high exchange rate, which continues to devalue the naira in the foreign exchange market.
The NAC also examined the planned 50% increase in telecom tariff and fully endorses the position of our sister Labour Center, the Nigerian Labour Congress, in rejecting this move. The decision to increase tariff was made without proper consideration of its economic impact on the masses. Similarly, the NAC, on behalf of Congress, strongly condemned the proposed 65% increase in electricity tariffs. It is alarming that the government is considering this hike when the previous increment has already inflicted severe hardship on the citizens. The NAC of TUC deliberated on the proposed introduction of toll gates on selected federal roads and strongly condemned it in its entirety. The NAC, on behalf of the Congress, strongly advises the government to refrain from introducing policies that will further exacerbate the current economic hardship faced by hard-working Nigerians. If the administration insists on implementing these policies, the TUC will have no choice but to mobilize the working class, civil society, and the oppressed masses for a nationwide action.
In the aftermath of the recent fire outbreak in Zamfara state, President Bola Tinubu has directed regulatory authorities in the education sector to ensure compliance with safety standards in schools across the country. Now, the president's directive follows the tragic death of 17 students at an Islamic school in Kaura Namoda Area Council as a result of the devastating fire. Meanwhile, Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal has ordered an investigation into led to the sad incident.
This is Malam Gali Islamic School in Kaura Namuda local government area of Zamfara State, the site of the fire outbreak that led to the death of at least 17 students of the school. Residents gathered to mourn the students and offer prayers for the repose of their souls. The charred remains of the school building, scattered slippers, burnt clothes and reading planks paints a grim picture of the destruction.
They were sleeping when we saw fire. We tried to put it off around 2 a.m. We heard a shout from some of the students. When we came out, we saw that the fire had worsened and tried to put it off again. But it was fierce. We had to find a way to rescue the students.
Malam Abubakar Lawali, a father of 5, lost one of his children in the fire.
The situation is from God. We brought the children to the Malam. He oversees their well-being. Anything he says, I am okay with it. It is from God.
17 students sustained various degrees of injuries and were treated at the Kaura Namuda General Hospital.
Those that are gotten bones were taken care of. They are resuscitated with some IV fluids. Dressing was done, and from those that was brought into the hospital, we didn't record any deaths. All of the dead body were not brought to the hospital. So only the life injuries were brought to the hospital and they are treated. By the morning, we managed to admit them. But you know here the tradition is that people believe in traditional medicine for burns. That is why their relations, you know, they are coming from villages. That is why 1 hour they have been coming and evacuating their children with our consent.
Meanwhile, commiseration continues to pour in for the state and those who lost their loved ones in the incident. A statement signed by President Tinubu's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, states that education authorities should ensure compliance with safety standards in schools across the country. While Governor Dauda Lawal has ordered investigation into the incident, the governor is also promising to ensure necessary support for the affected families.
So let's head now to the nation's capital, and Gloria Omezoke is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Gloria.
Thank you, Ayo. We turn attention now to security in the nation's capital, where the Federal Capital Territory Administration has approved over 3 billion naira for the construction of security architecture across the 6 area councils of the FCT. The Director of Security Services at the FCTA, Mr. Gwari made this disclosure while briefing the media after the first Executive Council meeting of the year, chaired by the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wiki. Mr. Gwari explains that the move is to ensure that there is optimum security coverage in all parts of the FCT.
September last year, the Honorable Minister directed that there is the need for taking security closer to the people by providing certain infrastructure, which includes a new police divisional office in each of the area council. 2 were considered. As at that time, 9 were concluded and approved. So today's memo presented the remaining 3, which make up 2 divisional headquarters in each of the 6 area council, totaling the sum of 3.648 billion. The facilities include the divisional headquarters and a 6-man staff quarters for the police operatives in
Kuje Area Council, Gwagwalada Area Council, and Kwali Area Council. And this is in line with the renewed hope agenda by providing effective, efficient, and adequate security for the residents of the Federal Capital Territory. And this is equally in line with the Minister's promise during his visit to the 6th Area Council last year, assuring them of the presence of the FCT administration to provide effective security.
Well, still ahead on the news at 10, the Nigerian Ports Authority increases ports tariffs by 15%, the first adjustment in 32 years. But that's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. To party politics, members of the People's Democratic Party Anambra State chapter have thrown their weight behind Mr. Ude Okoye as the party's national secretary and Mr. Peter Mba as the leader of the Southeast Caucus. The resolution was taken during the inauguration of some standing committees of the party in Oka, the Anambra State capital. The state chairman of the PDP, Mr. Chidi Chidebe, notes that strategies to be adopted by the party will give them victory in the 2025 governorship polls.
It may be 11 months to the governorship election in Anambra State, but the People's Democratic Party in the state is not leaving anything to chance as members gather in this hall to chart the way forward ahead of the poll. The state chairman of the party, Chidi Chidebe, begins the conversation by insisting that PDP is a well-structured party, deeply connected to the grassroots and fully prepared to reclaim its rightful place in governance.
When you talk about nationalistic nature of a political party, PDP is the only one that has that connotation as a party. Let me tell you, this election this year will shock a lot of people. We are here. We are here. But like I said, it's all about strategy.
In a move to give the party some sense of direction ahead of the November governorship election, the committees on strategic planning and policy development, grassroots mobilization and outreach, reconciliation and unity, fundraising and resource mobilization, media and communications, as well as state elders are set up and inaugurated.
To the best of our ability. And we want to assure the chairman and the entire executive and indeed all the members of our great party in Anambra State that we will do our best to do justice to this very onerous assignment.
The major high point of the meeting is the motion for the unanimous recognition of Enugu State Governor Mr. Peter Mba as the leader of the Southeast Caucus and Mr. Ude Okoye as the National Secretary, respectively.
Stand up and say aye. Those against say nay. They are not here. The Zonal Executive Committee of the party, as it has to do with Southeast, took a decision, met, and all the statutory members of this executive committee were in attendance. And the convener of that meeting, who is the governor of Enugu State, the leader, was there. And at the end of the decision, what did we see? We saw yet another set of gangsters meeting in Abuja, making pronouncements on behalf of Southeast. Where on earth have you seen a zonal meeting holding in Abuja?
The leadership of Anambra PDP discloses that the party will continue to seek reconciliation with genuinely aggrieved members to have them return to the fold.
And over to Imo State, where reprieve has come for residents of Ngbidi in West local government and Oguta town in Oguta local government, as well as commuters plying the DSS road in Amakohia, Owerri North local government area of the state. This follows the commissioning of these roads by the Imo State Governor, Mr. Hope Uzodimma, after its rehabilitation and reconstruction. According to the governor, who was speaking at the commissioning, The government has delivered over 120 of such roads since inception of his administration in 2020. Our correspondent, Itope Kutei, reports.
It's another day of infrastructural development in Imo State as Governor Hope Uzodinma officially commissions the reconstructed and rehabilitated 12-kilometer Ngbidi Oguta Town Road in Oru West local government area of Imo State, which had been in deplorable condition for years, causing untold hardship for commuters and residents. Indigents of the area in their numbers are grand to witness this important event. The arrival of the governor signals the commencement of the event. The Imo State Commissioner for Works, Raf Onwosu, gives a brief insight on this newly reconstructed road.
We extended additional 6 kilometers in Oguta town. We are talking of Fumiro Road, we are talking of Wampa Road, we are talking of Justice Oguta Road to make it up to 18 kilometers.
Governor Uzodinma says this development underscores his administration's drive to provide an enabling environment for rapid economic growth in Imo State.
It is important to note that over 120 quality roads has been constructed in Imo State. This is driven by our shared vision to diversify the economy and industrialize the state.
Not done for today, the government moves to commission the newly reconstructed and rehabilitated DSS road off Amakoya in Owerri North local government area. For the governor, his administration continues to deliver on his election promises through his numerous developmental projects that has direct impact on the people.
I recall how in 2019, how to go to relief market, you need a journey. How to go Mawaha was impassable. How to get to Olo, you must spend 4 hours. To go to Okebo, of course, had to be in days. Today, the story is no longer the same.
He then renames the road Umar Ganduje Road. Then the APC National Chairman commissions the road.
25. Thank you.
Some road users and residents commend the governor for the road revolution in the state.
Before, we have a bad road, but now the road will be motorable from Widi to Uguta and Uguta to Olo. We thank Governor Hope Uzodinma for his goodness to help people that from Oru West and Uguta local government.
This road, formerly, it was so pothole to Uguta. A lot of stones on the road. We are grateful today to see this road. You can even sleep and ride.
These newly completed roads, the Ganduje Drive and the Ngbidi Oguta Road, is expected to ease movement within the state and improve the livelihood of residents and businesses in these areas. The government says more roads that have been reconstructed and rehabilitated within this period will be commissioned in the coming days. Itope Kutei, Channels Television News.
And more security news. The Nigeria Police National Cybercrime Center, as part of its efforts to combat crime in the cyberspace and tackle financial fraudulent acts, has announced the arrest of a total of 32 suspects for their alleged involvement in cybercrime and sextortion. Parading 9 of the suspects in Abuja, the force public relations officer, Mr. Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says 52 other suspects were arrested by the police special fraud unit in Lagos for other crimes. Mr. Adejobi further explains that the arrests have been attributed to the action plan and the zeal of the Inspector General of Police to redeem the reputation of Nigeria by taking the country out of the Financial Action Task Force grey list.
In today's press briefing, we have a total of 9 suspects apprehended for various cyber-related offenses, and we are here for you to see. The first case we will be reviewing today is the arrest of 2 individuals, Saidu Adamu Usman, male, and Yusuf Umar, male. Are they here? IPO? They are in connection with the creation and distribution of compromised financial accounts used to facilitate fraudulent transactions amounting to over 400 million naira. Investigations revealed that both suspects were recruited via telegram by an unidentified foreign cyber criminal. The second case I have is arrest of key suspects in $4 million transnational fraud scheme. The Nigerian Police Force National Cybercrime Center has successfully apprehended key members of an organized crime syndicate involved in a $4 million fraud targeting international oil trading firms.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's over now to Will Ibong in Lagos for business news.
Thank you, Gloria. The Nigerian Ports Authority, NPA, has raised port tariffs by 15%, the first increase in 32 years. The NPA Managing Director, Abubakar Danshoho, made this known at a stakeholder meeting in Lagos, citing the need to address rising operational costs. Mr. Danshoho explains that despite exchange rate fluctuations, higher fuel prices and increasing wages, tariffs had remained unchanged for decades. He says the adjustment would help maintain efficient services and improve port infrastructure. He promises to reinvest the additional revenue in security, cargo handling, and modernizing port facilities. Meanwhile, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI, has raised concerns over the sudden implementation of a 4% customs processing charge, which took effect on February the 4th. The Chamber is calling on the federal government and the Nigeria Customs Service to suspend the charge and properly engage stakeholders before enforcement. While the charge is backed by law, LCCI argues that its abrupt rollout violates Section 23 of the Nigeria Customs Service Act, which mandates public notification. According to the LCCI, businesses already face multiple taxes, high interest rates, and forex shortages. The unexpected charge, LCCI warns, will disrupt trade and increase costs. The Chamber calls for improved port efficiency and trade facilitation instead of new financial burdens. It warns that the charge would cause port congestion and harm the economy, urging the government to prioritize automation and infrastructure upgrades. Now to some company news now. Oando is in the news again, but this time it is rewarding its shareholders with a significant 1.28 billion additional shares as stock dividends, marking the largest shareholder reward in the company's history. The total value of the stock dividends is 97.56 billion naira, based on Oando's closing share price of 76 naira on January 30th, 2025. This follows approval at the 45th Annual General Meeting in December 2024, and the distribution will take place in two phases. The first tranche of 641.86 million shares will be distributed on February 14th, 2025, with the second tranche of the same amount on June 30th, 2025. With this stock distribution, shareholders are receiving a return on investment of over 10%, with the additional shares also increasing their potential for future dividends. By offering stock dividends instead of cash, Oando says it is preserving its financial strength and ensuring continued growth without draining its liquidity. Minority shareholders will receive one new share for every 12 existing shares, all without dilution. The company's decision to distribute shares in place helps to avoid market instability, ensuring a strong and stable stock price. Oando's robust performance in 2024, including a $783 million acquisition of Nigerian Ajib Oil Company, led to a 500% increase in its share price and a 45% revenue surge to 4.1 trillion naira. Also, the company's recent award of Block Con 13 in Angola's Kwanza Basin further boosts its growth prospects. The Group Chief Executive, Mr. Wale Tinubu, highlights that Oando will focus on cost optimization, operational efficiency, and leveraging technology to drive productivity and enhance shareholder value moving forward. Now for a check-in on the domestic stock market. Bullish sentiments are prevailing as the all-share index and market cap continue an upward trend. John Mekwa has the details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, the NGX sustained the positive sentiment from intraday, and we see it keeping that 105,000 level at the close of trade, up 0.10%, and the market cap is building on the 65 trillion naira level that it's gotten yesterday. Now, the gainers today, we see Eternal Oil gaining 3 naira today. That's about 9.88%. Cadbury also made that list 9.88%. And fits in, looking good for them. And then when you look at the losers, of course, there has to be losers also. We have Triple LG right there losing 9.72%. Gold Breweries also lost 8.91%, and Veritas Cap down 7.81%. But they were not strong enough to stop the bull from winning the race today.
And that wraps it for business. It's back to Ayotini for the rest of the news at
10. Many thanks. Here's Sami Puzi with our international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US President Donald Trump has restated a vision in which the US would take over Gaza after officials in his administration appeared to contradict his earlier comments. He reiterated the idea that would mean resettling Palestinians and that no US soldiers would be needed.
President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker.
Mr. Trump's resettlement idea has prompted accusations that he is planning ethnic cleansing and has drawn condemnation from the United Nations, human rights groups, and Arab leaders.
That does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
Analysts doubt it will ever happen. After Mr. Trump's first comments on the issue, his officials suggested any relocation would only be temporary. Meanwhile, Israel's defense minister has told its military to prepare to plan to allow any resident of Gaza who wishes to leave to do so, in line with President Donald Trump's proposal for the US to take over the territory and resettle the 2.1 million Palestinians living there. Israel Katz said Gazans should have freedom of movement and migration, and countries critical of Israel's war with Hamas were obligated to take them in. The US Secretary of State, meanwhile, insisted the resettlement would be temporary during Gaza's reconstruction, though Mr. Trump said it would be permanent. Palestinian leaders and Arab states have rejected the plan and said that forced displacement would violate international law.
President of Malawi.
Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera has ordered the military to begin preparing to withdraw from their peacekeeping mission in the volatile Eastern Democratic of Congo. The Malawian troops are part of the Southern African Regional Bloc's military mission deployed to help tackle armed groups. At least 20 peacekeepers, including 14 South Africans and 3 Malawians, were killed as the M23 rebels captured the key city of Goma last week. President Chakwera said the decision was meant to honour the declaration of a ceasefire by the parties, even though fighting is continuing. Protesters in Bangladesh have vandalised and set fire to the former family home of the deposed Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, as well as those of other members of her party. The unrest was sparked by news that Hasina would address the country via social media from India, where she has been in exile since student-led protests ousted her last year. The 77-year-old Hasina, who was in charge of Bangladesh for 20 years, was seen as an autocrat whose government ruthlessly clamped down on dissent. Syria's embassy in Stockholm says Syrians were among the 10 victims of a gunman who carried out the worst shooting in Swedish history at a school in Örebro this week. The suspected gunman, named locally as 35-year-old Rickard Andersson, was killed in the attack, but police have not yet identified him and have not given a motive. The embassy's announcement on its Facebook page was the first indication of who was killed in Tuesday's attack at Risbergska School. A state of emergency has been declared on the Greek island of Santorini after days of consecutive earthquakes. It comes after a magnitude 5.2 tremor was recorded at 9 o'clock local time between the Greek islands of Amorgos and Santorini, making it the strongest in recent days. It is estimated to have occurred at a depth of 5 kilometers. The state of emergency will be in effect until the 3rd of March to address the emergency needs and manage the consequences. More than 11,000 people have already left Santorini, with around 7,000 departing by ferry and 4,000 people by air. And last month was the world's warmest January on record, raising further questions about the pace of climate change. January 2025 had been expected to be slightly cooler than January 24 because of a shift away from a natural weather pattern in the Pacific known as El Nino. But instead, last month broke the January 2024 record by nearly 0.1% according to the European Copernicus Climate Service. The world's warming is due to emissions of planet-heating gases from human activities, mainly the burning of fossil fuels, but scientists say they cannot fully explain why last month was particularly hot. It continues a series of surprisingly large temperature records since mid-2023.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Sparta Prague striker Victor Olatunji says he's ready to feature for the Super Eagles if given a chance by the newly appointed Super Eagles head coach Eric Schell. Olatunji, who was our guest on Channel Sports Tonight this evening, has netted 10 goals in 33 games in all competitions for the Czech Republic-based club this season. He believes the three-time African champions can triumph in next month's crucial 2026 World Cup qualifying games against Rwanda and Zimbabwe.
I think as a footballer, we need to work hand to hand because I don't have the power to be in the team. The coaches and the staff have the overall power to invite who want to be in the team because we have the likes of Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman, and Victor Boniface. These are great players, and with me being in the team, we work hands together and make our country proud. Playing as a single player will not help the team. We need to come collectively as a player to play, as a team. So to talk about what I will do individually, trust me, I will not do anything individually. But as a single player playing together as a team, we will do a lot together.
Former Real Madrid left-back Marcelo announces his retirement from professional football after a trophy-laden career earlier today. The 36-year-old spent 16 years at Spanish giant Madrid, winning 6 La Liga titles and 5 Champions League trophies. He also won the Copa del Rey twice and the Club World Cup 4 times during his time with Los Blancos, for whom he made 546 appearances, scoring 38 goals. Marcelo made 58 appearances for the Brazil national team, playing at the 2014 and 2018 World Cups and winning the 2013 Confederation Cup. And Liverpool are through to the EFL Cup final at Wembley, where they will face Newcastle United. The Reds beat Tottenham Hotspur 4-0 at Anfield to progress 4-1 on aggregate with goals from Cody Gakpo, Mohamed Salah, Dominic Szoboszlai and Virgil van Dijk. And Thomas Bach says Italy is ready to host next year's Winter Olympics as the one-year countdown to the sprawling Milan Cortina Games began, an event in Italy's economic capital earlier today. The International Olympic Committee chief Bach confirms that the much-contested bobsleigh track for the Games, on which construction work only began a year ago, will be completed in time ahead of the deadline next month.
The works are already on the way. We have a chair of the Coordination Commission, our Olympic Games department. They are working since last year already with the regions, with the different cities. They are at the same time will be able to experience the Italian hospitality, Italian culture, and way of life. So the anticipation can only grow, and I think it will be fantastic games.
That sport is back to you, Ayo.
And the main news again. Vice President Kashim Shettima has urged African leaders to reduce reliance on foreign models and embrace homegrown solutions. And the Senate has launched an investigation into allegations made by Niger's military leader against Nigeria. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Do have a good night.